This is why you don't get compliments when you wear fragrance.
Here's some codes to save you some cash on your next Middle Eastern niche or designer fragrances.
What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of reasons as to why you're probably not getting compliments when rocking a fragrance. Before we get started, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and share this to somebody who needs to hear this. We're not going to make this a long, stretched out, unnecessary video where we're just going to be talking about my experience and the facts. So in my lifetime of wearing fragrances, I can legitimately, so help me God, count on two hands how many bad comments I've gotten when rocking a fragrance, which is hardly ever. From the first time I rocked a fragrance, I've stuck to this method, and since then I've only tested boundaries and got more comfortable, and I get compliments on a regular basis. There is not a single week that goes by without me getting complimented. Needless to say, I didn't get compliments like this all the time. In fact, when I was a little bit younger, I didn't get compliments often. As time progressed, a couple of things changed and the compliments started rolling in. So I'll be sharing with you guys my tips and tricks and how and why you're not getting compliments and how to fix that. So the first topic is going to be how many times you spray your cologne. I cannot emphasize how important it is to spray your cologne appropriately. There are a lot of you that are just scared of the trigger, genuinely. And it's crazy to me because in the origins of perfumery, or since perfumery originated in the East, perfumery was never really looked at as an excess or something that could potentially be done in an excess. You had people burning incenses, you had people using some sorts of musk rubs, and on top of that you have people spraying on their fragrance, and I can almost guarantee that there is not a person in the East that will spray it 1, 2 and just be done. And unfortunately that is the case with a lot of people here in the West, and that's kind of a more modern day thing or modern day take. If you're one of those people and you get compliments, keep on doing your thing. There are different people who have different vibes, but if you're here because you want compliments, then this is what you need to change. Number one being the amount of sprays. I'm not going to use this as a reference because this isn't really the strongest in the world, but this is a general average time of sprays that you should be using when rocking something that's not really that offensive. So mass appealing and fresh. Generally speaking, it's going to be fresh fragrances. So let's take Youre Sauvage as an example, and we're talking about the eau de parfum concentration. Let me grab that. I'm using this as a reference because who doesn't know Sauvage? So with the Sauvage eau de parfum concentration, I have never sprayed this less than 6 times. And every single time, almost every time, I got a compliment while rocking this. It's inoffensive, fresh, ambroxan, peppers, citruses. Now, if you feel like you need to spray it less than 6 times, then it could be for a different couple of reasons. A, you're around somebody who has an intolerance or some kind of allergies, or B, you yourself have some kind of intolerances to perfumery or allergies, or that this scent profile in itself can be a little bit synthetic. So let's veer off into something that's also fresh and a little less synthetic, at least to my nose. There isn't as much of a metallic ambroxan, something like a Ventus. So a Ventus is pineapple, a little bit smoky, woody, and clearly a more naturalistic style freshy. This is another one that I would easily spray 6 to legitimately 12 times. What's also helping in this case and allowing me to spray it more is that it doesn't have too many peppers. There isn't really anything that's too metallic either, allowing me to spray it on a little bit more. The metallic or synthetic nature of something like this, although smells good, can be a bit more projecting and potentially more offensive. Personally, never had an issue spraying it about 6 times. That's what I would consider safe and the beginning of people starting to smell you. If you're going close encounters in office, these are all other things to consider, but we're putting that aside for now. This is going to be the general case with fragrance, is number one, spray it more appropriately. For a fragrance that doesn't have a problem with performance, I would personally go anywhere from 6 up to 10 sprays. What depends on whether you go 6, 8, or 10 is going to be the level of your confidence and your personality. If you're somebody who's more reserved, I would reserve it to 6, and you probably will find that 6 might be too much for you. 6 sprays will get you noticed. It might be a little uncomfortable because you're not used to it, but it'll get you noticed. Now, if you're going into a work environment where there are people with intolerances or allergies, and then you spray it 6 times and you get bad comments, well, that's a different scenario, and I'm not telling you to spray it 6 times in those environments, but rather on a regular daily basis where you're not going to the office or around people who feel exactly like that. Otherwise, on your daily routine, you don't really have to worry about all of that. This is going to enhance your experience, enhance your overall aura, and you're going to get noticed. Otherwise, on a regular basis, when you're just going about your day, you don't really have to be considerate of being outdoors or outside. Generally speaking, I mean, you can't really control everything around you, and this is going to be your experience. If you're one of those people who are just basically sissy sprayers, then yes, it might make you uncomfortable, but as you start to play around with it and get more used to it, you'll start to see compliments start coming in. With the Elixir, I would call this beast mode. A lot more peppers, a lot more projecting, and very very strong. With something like this, I would say you're safe going anywhere from 4 to 6 sprays. I've personally rocked it up to 8 sprays, but that's really dependent on your personality and how comfortable you are. Which will lead me into the next topic, which is scent matching, basically. So scent profiles, they differ, obviously. You're going to have florals, freshy, spicy, woody, ambery. There's so many scent profiles, and if you're looking for different alternatives, etc., and scent profiles, then you found the right channel. But this is arguably one of the most important segments of this video. It's going to be scent matching. So before you even get to spraying the fragrance on you, you have to scent match. And in order to scent match, you have to find out what your favorite scent profile is. And that's very simple. Go and sniff fragrances. Smell something that might be spicy, smell something that might be fruity, smell something that might be citrusy. And the way to find out is just literally go smell it and see what you would classify as each one of those classifications. Not necessarily having to go and look at, Fragrantica for a note breakdown, but that could help if you're still a little bit untrained and not knowing how to actually classify fragrances. You can sniff something, know whether or not you really like it and what parts of it you really like, or take the sample with you and then pull up the guide of Fragrantica and see the classifications. Oh, this has spices, this has blah, blah, blah. And through time or through experience, you're going to start to develop or understand your taste. So if you go and you try and rock something that's metallic, spicy, fresh, and you spray it 6 times, but you don't like the scent profile to begin with, then obviously it's not gonna work for you. It's not gonna bring in the compliments, and 6 sprays is obviously gonna be too much. There are a lot of people out there that actually pick up Sauvage not because they enjoy it, but because people tell them it smells good and gets compliments. Those are likely to be the people that don't want to spray it more than 4 times or find it overbearing more than 4 times. And it makes 100% sense. You don't really enjoy the scent profile. But if you truly enjoy the scent profile, then personally, for me, I would want to spray it and smell it all day. And that's typically going to be the rate at which you should spray it at, as mentioned earlier on in the video. So figuring out your scent match is number 1, definitely before the atomization. And how to do so, like I said, sample them out. And what this in turn results in is going to be a confidence boost. So this is all intertwined. When you have a scent match, you're going to want to wear it, you're going to want to spray it more, and your confidence and your aura is going to level up. You're going to have this vibe about you, confidence, and when you spray it on, you're going to be like, I know I smell good. So if you do end up getting a bad comment from a Karen or somebody who just has a thing to really hate fragrance on your daily routine, obviously, not in the workplace or if you work in a hospital and stuff, those are different scenarios. So let's put those aside. People who actually have medical conditions, that's another story. And then, in fact, if you're out in public and somebody says, hey, I have asthma or something like that, they don't have to be rude. If somebody's rude to you, then they're probably one of these people that are never going to get compliments no matter what fragrance they wear, because we'll get to the section of approachability. But for now, and like I said, for the most part, when you find something you like, even if it's Eros, I don't personally enjoy Eros. If you do, then rock it, dude, rock it. That is a strong fragrance. I wouldn't spray it on more than about 5 to 6 times, 4 to 6 times, because it can be pretty beastly. And that mint, for me personally, can be cloying. If it's not cloying for you, and the only way to find out is going back to scent matching. Try it out. Back to what I was saying, after you scent match, and ultimately it's not going to just be that first spray and you're like, oh yeah, this smells good, but a lot of times it is that case. You're gonna want to spray it on a lot. And at that point, you want to test it out first and see how well it performs. In order to find out whether it's beastly, whether it's average, you kind of have to try it for yourself because it performs differently on multiple people. If it helps to look up reviews and to see, other people's experiences or a review channel, then you could start there and kind of gauge yourself from that standpoint. If you're one who's not really that confident, try and atomize a little bit less than most people will say and start from there and go up accordingly. But you should still try and spray it according to that guide that I personally have stuck to for many years and increased over time and get a crap ton of compliments. I'm not even joking, so help me God. The next thing that's going to be intertwined to all of these after scent matching and after the atomizations and making sure you actually spray it enough, although you can smell it, it doesn't mean that other people can either. Sometimes I've sprayed on fragrances that I'm just like, wow, this is a lot. I might have sprayed it just a little bit too much. And other people will just compliment me during the entire day. I'll genuinely ask them, dude, is it too much? Is it coming off too strong? And on multiple occasions where I thought I might have overdone it, it wasn't overdone. So they say. I've also tested this theory and wore the same exact fragrance a little bit less, and yeah, no compliments really come in. There's gotta be a perfect ground in between both where you feel comfortable and you're still projecting at the same time. Although not all fragrances are created equally, so it could potentially be that that scent profile might have just been a little bit too much for me. Not necessarily that I sprayed it too much, because it clearly gave me the compliments that I wanted and desired, just might have been a fragrance that wore a little bit too heavy for me personally, and I couldn't really tolerate the way that it smelled up close. And that's no surprise to me because I hardly ever wear that fragrance anymore, basically. It's this creamy vanilla, maybe some oud, and a lot of saffron, basically. So it could potentially be that it was a little bit too harsh for my liking up close. Although it projected wonderfully, I really wasn't that crazy about it, but once the compliments started rolling in, once I started seeing the positive, feedback coming from that fragrance, I actually really started to enjoy it. Another perfect example is Dylan Blue. This is a fragrance that initially, when I first got my nose on, I absolutely hated it. It was synthetic, it was loud, it was way too much, and I used to sniff it up close. I let about a year go by and I smelled it on somebody, and I asked him what he was wearing. He was wearing Dylan Blue. The guy sprayed it on like 8 times. It wasn't overbearing, it was perfect, and he was wearing it to the gym. It led me to go and buy Dylan Blue and has become one of my favorite affordable style designer fragrances that I think is extremely beautiful and compliment worthy as hell. So that's a fragrance that now I buy and I spray on at least 6 to 12 times sometimes. 12 being on the higher side of things, but it's got like this ambroxan, a little bit of peppers, incense. It's more of a Middle Eastern DNA that works for me. So that year before, it really wasn't a scent match for me, and it could be plenty of reasons. As small as the way you're smelling it. If you're smelling it up close, it could not be for you, but that's for another topic, basically. Scent match is really something that there are plenty of other little subcategories. How much you spray it for finding your scent match. You could potentially like Sauvage at about 6 sprays, but really hate it at 12 sprays. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like Sauvage. It just means that spraying it on too much could emphasize on a note that you don't like, etc. Something maybe of the metallic or synthetic starts to increase, which does change. Does it mean you shouldn't buy it? I mean, that's really up to you. There have been fragrances where I can only spray it about 5 times. It doesn't really perform more than 4 hours. If I spray it like 8 to 9 times, the scent profile changes. It turns into just muck. And although I get that performance stretch, the scent profile has changed, leaving me to not ultimately wear that fragrance anymore. It is what it is. Let's play a scenario. Sauvage doesn't get you compliments at 4 sprays. You spray it on about 7 sprays, you're starting to get compliments, but you're not enjoying the fragrance anymore because it's changed or gotten too synthetic. I personally wouldn't wear it anymore. Now, if you're wearing it 4 times, you enjoy it and you're wearing it for yourself and you don't really care for the compliments, then you're watching the wrong video because this is about people who want to get compliments with their fragrance, okay? Hopefully that made some sense, and let's move on to the next factor, which is going to be intertwined to all of these. Scent match spraying is going to lead to your boost in confidence, and this should in turn increase your appearance. So appearance is before all of these. These are just supplements. So clean shave, clean cut. I mean, who's gonna be clean shaven and clean cut 24/7? It's not realistic, but I mean, at the very least, you should hold like a standard of like, okay, it's too much. So if you're letting your beard grow out, the hairs on your neck just like are always long and you're always looking fuzzy and scruffy, then I'm sorry, man, but people are more likely not to compliment you, except for maybe your mother. Appearance is not only how scruffy you look and what you're wearing, but also how clean you look at the same time. And generally speaking, having a fuzzy beard, etc., it translates into somebody who doesn't really look that clean. You don't necessarily have to have like the best bling bling and gold, etc. Working with what God gave you is more than enough. Clean up your beard, look clean shaven. If you don't like a beard, just shave it all off, it's fine. I mean, everybody has their own style and their own taste, but make sure you look like you actually clean yourself. If you're looking fuzzy and scruffy, who's gonna want to approach you in general, let alone give you a compliment? So you have to be approachable to begin with in order for you to even like, okay, I mean, it's off. It's really off. It's like walking past a homeless person who smells like Creed Aventus. You don't know whether to compliment him or to tell him to like, I wouldn't even know what to do, genuinely. And that's kind of what it turns into. So you definitely, if you want compliments, you got to look the part first. So this is already something you guys know. So I'm not really going to, emphasize more on that topic. More so what really is going to depend on the compliments, etc., is not being scared of the trigger. There are still, certain boundaries where you shouldn't go past, and there is a certain level of fragrance where it can be offensive, and that really depends on the people around you. But I'm almost certain that most people that rock fragrance in the West that complain about not getting compliments do not spray it enough. Be considerate of where you're going. If you work in a factory, etc., you could probably get away with, actually spraying it on it a little bit more. And being at the workplace, there have been fragrances, all of these genuinely. If I was in the workplace, I probably wouldn't spray this more than about 4 to 5 times. And considering where you work is one of the most dependent or contingent things that's going to factor on how much you spray. Only time it's okay to spray your fragrance less than 4 times, which, believe it or not, there's people that do that, is going to be at the workplace or around somebody who has an actual allergy or intolerance. That's it. Everybody else should at least be at 4 sprays for beastly performing fragrances, at least 4 sprays, and with the rest of the fragrances, anywhere from 6 up to 15. Prime example for a 15 sprayer, Nautica Voyage. I've sprayed this and only gotten compliments, literally only gotten compliments on this whenever I sprayed it at least 12 to 14 times. Very inoffensive, watery, and actually pretty good for the scent profile at the price that it is. Cucumbery, salty, a little bit aquatic. It's a very good fragrance for the price. This video can be summarized into 5 intertwining points. Number 1 being scent matching. Number 2 being appearance, which is also intertwined with the confidence level of scent matching, which is also intertwined with the number of sprays that you do, because this can in turn change your experience as to whether or not it's too much of a scent for you or too little. And lastly, your personality and approachability. All of these are intertwined, guys. Spray your fragrances on more. Make sure you like them before you spray them on more, because if you're spraying on a fragrance that somebody told you to buy because it's getting you compliments, well, you're doing it all wrong right from the beginning of scent matching. Wear what you like, not what you're told to wear. Please make sure that you're buying fragrances for the right purposes. Make sure you're doing your research. Find a creator or somebody that you enjoy watching, that's taste resonates with you and aligns with you, and just go off of that. Don't just buy every complimented list fragrance on the internet, because you'll be stuck still searching for compliments. And don't be a sissy sprayer. And that's why you're not getting compliments with your fragrance. Believe it or not, in the East, you go into a mall and the mall is just seeping and oozing fragrance, genuinely. It's a culture thing, and tolerance for perfume in the East is a lot higher. And in fact, it's the opposite of what it can be here in the West. It's like, you're not wearing perfume? What? And most people who complain about perfume, unless it's extremely obnoxious, are looked at like, are you okay? I was even outside of this outdoor mall and they had bushes, or things that made it to look like bushes, dispensing fragrance. I kid you not. So although different tastes and considerations should be made at very specific occasions, this is how you're gonna get compliments, gentlemen. So don't be afraid of the trigger and spray your fragrance. Yeah, that's pretty much how many times. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Go out there and get those compliments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.